Welcome to the show. You have found Mason Street Retirement Insights, where every week we turn to our resident financial advisor, Sean Mason. He is the founder of Mason Street Wealth Management right here in Fresno. And he's been helping clients retire with confidence for years. He'd love to do the same for you. So he is here today to break down some of the biggest retirement topics for us. Okay, so let's talk about what can quietly move out of your account every single month without you even noticing. And I'm talking about fees, Sean. So I want to challenge you to take a look at your next retirement account statement. See if you can tell what you're paying in fees, because they can show up in different places. They can show up as advisor fees, fund expenses, commissions, and a lot of that just quietly comes out of your account month after month. So this has me wondering, is there a simpler way to kind of help get a handle on it? And I've got Jason Kephart with Morningstar talking about this. Let's take a listen.
You really want to keep in some rules of thumb, like your all-in costs. Like if you have $100,000, what did you actually pay in fees that year? Whether it's commission, fee-based, or fee only. And what is your total cost? We think the average in the industry is probably around 1%. That's what gets bandied around a lot. So if your fees are significantly north of that, I would maybe ask some more questions. And if they're significantly under that, maybe you're getting a good deal, or maybe there are some services you're not being offered that, others might be.
So I'm wondering what you think of his suggestion, Sean. How should somebody evaluate whether the fees they're paying are actually worth it for their situation?
Yeah, Jason makes some good points. It's the all-in cost and by the way, this is so important because it affects the rate of return. And over time, that can make a huge difference. And most people don't know what their fees are. Jason made a good point as to what you really want to be looking at is your all-in cost. I asked somebody, in fact, Eric, he was in last week, and I said, Eric, what are you paying in costs in your IRA right now? And he told me 1%. And I had a feeling that the advisor had told him that management fees were 1%. Well, we get his statement and we do a deep dive into those expenses. And we found that the fees actually are 2.1%. And he had no idea.
Double what he thought.
Over double what he thought. And I'll tell you, Casey, that's not unusual. That happens all the time. And it's because when you ask what your fees are, there's all different types of fees. There's loads. A load is when there's a cost for you to go into a fund, and then the advisor is making a commission on that cost. They might charge you for transactions. So sell Microsoft and buy Coca-Cola. They might charge you for that. Some firms charge for time in addition to their fees. And as you all know, management costs, and typically that's what the advisor is going to tell you. If they tell you it's a 1% management or investment management cost, that's typically only one of those categories. You also have to be careful of internal fund fees. Those are fees that don't even show up on the statement. Those are fees that when you're in a fund, the actual cost of being in the fund is internal. And so those aren't going to show up on your statement. You can find those in the prospectus, but the reality is most people don't really read the prospectus.
Yeah.
But yeah, Casey, to your question, how do you know if it's worth it? I like to try and urge people to think about the net. It's not that fees are bad. It's all about the value that we're going to get from paying the fees. Look, I don't mind paying top price to have my kitchen remodeled, right? But the job that they do better be greater, at least relatively, than the lowest price. Mm-hmm. So think about the net. If somebody's going to charge you 1%, they better be able to do better than you by 1%. And if they do, it might be a good deal because it's all about the amount of money that goes into your pocket or into your account. That's what you got to be looking for. And then you also got to be recognizing that there's value. Some advisors, some advisory firms provide more service than just that investment management. That investment management is easy to see. Fees versus rate of return, that's simple. But if they're providing other or additional services, you got to take that in consideration as well.
Well, that's kind of my next question, Sean. What should you be getting in terms of planning, in terms of advice, in terms of services for these fees that you're paying? What do you think?
Yeah, it's a great question because, I won't suggest that what you should be getting, because what you should be getting is what you're told that you're going to get, right? And so if an advisor tells you that all they're doing is managing your money, then that's okay. If you sign up for that, what's wrong with that? But if they're suggesting that there's other things that are going on that they're doing, you want to be cognizant of that. Income planning. That's huge, right? And often advisors are doing income planning and they're just relying on the investment fee to compensate themselves for that. But they're taking care of income guarantees. They're putting together Social Security and pensions and annuities. They're figuring out time horizons in the different buckets in your investment accounts. Think about tax mitigation. You know, if as a firm we can save a family $300,000 over their lifetime in tax liability, how do you put a rate of return to that? And we might do that using Roth conversions, tax loss harvesting, using RMD strategies. Any advisor that is, working with you from a tax perspective, and if you have a CPA, you want to make sure that that advisor is on the same page with your CPA. They should definitely be communicating together. But, estate plans, stress testing. Look, stress testing your retirement for pitfalls, for hurdles, for challenges, that can keep you out of deep water in the future. There is truly a value to that, but how do you actually put a number to that?
So let's say somebody takes our challenge. They do a deep dive on their next account statement, Sean. They discover they're paying more than they originally thought. What are their options? Do they then adjust investments? Do they adjust the relationship they have with their advisor? Do they perhaps work on both? What do you think?
Yeah, I think the discussion with the advisor is really important. You've got to know what your all-in costs are. You have to know that. We're going to make sure, and we're going to look at every account that comes in our office. We're going to look at those statements, and we're going to make sure that we have clarity on exactly what those costs are. And if you find that those costs are too high, you've got to be having a discussion with that advisor. It might be a good idea to go out and talk with some other advisors to find out how much they're charging and what kind of services they're providing for those charges.
That is going to do it for us this week here on Mason Street Retirement Insights. As always, thank you so much for joining us, and we will be back next week, same time, same place, with more great insight from Sean Mason, president of Mason Street Wealth Management. Take care.
Mason Street Wealth Management, MSWM, is a registered investment advisor, and the opinions expressed by MSWM on this show are their own and do not reflect the opinions of Motivate Investments. Registration is not an endorsement by securities regulators. Investment advisory services are offered through Motivate Investments, an SEC-registered investment advisory firm. All statements and opinions expressed are based upon information considered reliable, although it should not be relied upon as such. Any statements or opinions are subject to change without notice. The information presented is for educational purposes only and does not intend to make an offer or solicitation for the sale or purchase of any specific securities, investments, or investment strategies. Investments involve risk and, unless otherwise stated, are not guaranteed. Information expressed does not take into account your specific situation or objectives and is not intended as recommendations appropriate for any individual. Listeners are encouraged to seek advice from a qualified tax, legal, or investment advisor to determine whether any information presented may be suitable for their specific situation. Past performance is not indicative of future performance. By contacting us, you may be provided with information about insurance products, including annuities, offered through Sean A. Mason, California, insurance license number 0B54860. The firms are separate entities. Annuity guarantees rely on the financial strength and claims paying ability of the issuing insurance company and are not offered by Motivate Investments. Read your contract for restrictions, limitations, or penalties. MSWM is not licensed in all 50 states. To find out if MSWM is licensed in your state, please call 559-892-0002.